Hello and welcome to the next tour with
Ian?
Andia. Welcome. We're so excited to have you here today for episode 30. This is Transition a Hobby into a Career. And Ian is going to welcome our guest today, Paul Rodgers.
Yeah, hey, Paul, good to have you on here, my friend.
Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Paul and I actually had the distinct honor to be stationed together for 2 years. Paul is a retired Chief Master Sergeant out of our wonderful United States Air Force. 31 and a half years. He had a short break in there. That's why his term of service is so long. An incredibly full career. So, as mentioned, because we were stationed together, Chief Rodgers was my superintendent for the 316th Security Forces Group at Joint Base Andrews. His final assignment, my next to last assignment. He also wore a second hat as the Air Force District of Washington Security Forces Functional Manager. So big role and responsibility there, of course, doing the protection for Air Force One and, all that wonderful stuff that comes with that installation. But Paul, it's so good to have you on here. What have you been up to in these last 3 years since you retired?
Well, thank you, Ian. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be on. Shocking that anybody wants to hear what I do, or that it would be interesting enough to make a podcast about. But thank you. So after you quit on me, or moved on to a different position, uh, and I actually want to hit on our time together. A little bit. When I remember, the military, you run into countless people, and you're always you try to find that bonding moment. So I remember I was already there under the previous colonel. You show up, and I'm like, oh, I got a new colonel here. So I go in, and it ended. I think I pretty in the beginning. One of our first conversations, like, well, where are you from? Where are you from? And we found out that like our parents live, or your mom and my dad lived miles away from each other. Went to rival high schools, although I was a few classes ahead,
Just a few
or so,
ish.
ish,
Ish.
back to the which I thought was like, well, what are the odds? Two Arizona boys. Huh, this isn't gonna go well. And it turned out to be an absolutely amazing assignment. But after you moved on, you know, I I was trying to transition out. Not right away, got another colonel in, and we, kept getting those phone calls. I remember a few times like, "Hey, do we have a job in the morning? Well, cool. Let's just go and see if it works." But yeah, it's just, but post that, after you left, I had another year or so, and then I started trying to transition out of the service. And I say try because I tried. I didn't do any. I did taps. I did e-taps, and I wanted to do the skill bridge, and I wanted to get, as you guys have talked about, I wanted to base myself in a career I could do, which really does tie to kind of why we're talking.
Yeah.
I signed up for the skill bridge, and I'm doing everything. I'm not putting myself first. I am a third wheel in my own life. And even I'm doing the paperwork for the skill bridge, and I'm reading it, probably not as much as I should, because I'm too busy focused. As you know, we had three other chiefs in the group, each one of the squadrons. Well, one of the squadron chiefs goes over and takes over the PAG job. The other chief retired early, and the other one was retiring with me. They were all good with leaving. I had this weird moral compass that was spinning around, and it was like, you can't leave. You can't do skill bridge. If I do skill bridge for 4 months, 6 months, then you're left without any adult supervision, you
Mm.
know, uh, in the group. And I was like, well, I just can't do that. So I didn't transition out how I planned through once, for the last probably 10 years. This is what I'm gonna do. And I totally didn't do any of that. When it came down to the line, I worked up until 2 days before my retirement ceremony, and I out processed on terminal leave. So not the right it was the right thing for me to do, but it wasn't the right thing for my career. Because once I retired, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. At 31, something years doing this, with that, break in service. Yeah, I wasn't ready. So I just
Yeah.
took what I've been doing for fun and said, "Well, let me give this a shot. I'm gonna give it a year." And I do cop math, so I don't use ones or zeros. I don't believe in them. So I was like, "Well, I'm just gonna give it, like, a year." And I gave it up till the first, calendar year, which was, a few months, 8 or so months after. And I'm like, "Well, that wasn't really a full year, so let me keep doing the hobby." 'Cause I didn't give it a full year. I don't wanna lie to myself. So I pushed it off for another year, and then I've just been building things.
Yeah.
So that's what I haven't stepped away from that. So I'm still giving it another year
Nice.
to
Good, good, you should.
Yeah.
So
Well, and I think that that's one thing that Andy is going to ask you about is, so what exactly do you do, right?
yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah, so you're right. That is what I'm gonna ask you. So we didn't haven't really like I feel like we're burying the lead here. So
I'm
you
sorry.
own a
Oh,
company called no, it's
hey,
totally fine.
and there's the
There's
logo.
your
oh,
logo placement.
how did
Yeah,
that happen?
Barefoot
right there.
Woodworks, and we actually have a lot of things sitting around our house that you've made. But it is pretty impressive. So let's talk about how you got started. How did you turn this hobby in and this passion into a business? I mean, this is ultimately what you did, this woodworking company, and you turned it into a business. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that next step after now you're retired and
Yeah.
you're off to the races. You're giving yourself all this time to make it work, which I feel like it's working. But why don't you share, yeah, how did you turn this passion into your business?
Well, I've been woodworking for a while, but I think everybody does. I wouldn't say every man and every woman who likes to make stuff. I I'm cheap, or my wife always hits her elbow. I think it's a Latin thing about being stingy. She's like, "Let's buy that." I'm like, "No, I can make that," and I couldn't. So I started building stuff as like, A1C Rogers. And when we got married, I'm like, I could tinker on this, and it was horrible. My first table, it was a cool mosaic, and I built it, and then I set it in the living room, and I threw my keys on it, and it listed to the side. And I was like, "Oh," it's like I put a nail in the wall, and then when it listed, it hit the nail, and it was perfect. True story. Um, so I've always been building stuff, and then I started selling stuff in when I was a op soup in Minot on the 5th. I did craft shows with I was in a guild, uh, which was interesting. I was definitely the youngest person there. But I started doing craft shows and started making a little bit of odd money on the side. People were liking what I was making, which was mind blowing to me. I'm like, okay, I don't have any training. Uh, I just like ideas. I come up with I've been told I was the idea guy. I got coined once as a young text. Well, I guess it'd be I had a line number for master. The command chief coined me for my ideas. He coined me this right in front of the entire senior NCO or the top three council. He coined me and he goes, for Sergeant Rogers, great ideas. We didn't use any of them. They were way over here, but you got us thinking. So I took my ideas, and I just started kind of creating things. And I believe, because I don't have any real training in it. I just kind of make it up as I go. Heavy on the ish. Is my business plan, and my business motto is you can't fail if you don't have a plan.
Oh, that's a great point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I can't fail. I don't have a thing planned, so just it worked out exactly how it was supposed to work out. Uh, which I did have some bosses in the military. That's really not how we do it. But it's a different way of saying Semper Gumby, right? It's just,
Yeah.
we're gonna make it. But how did I get started on this? Sorry, I've been woodworking for a while. People were asking me to make things, and I just said, "Well, let me just give it a shot. Let me just try and see if this works." So yeah, I got it logged on, and to the state website, and formed a LLC, and had to come up with a name. Well, my call sign when as a chief was always barefoot with everybody in the chiefs groups, and the was on the back of all my jerseys. So because I don't like shoes, as you know,
Yeah. True story.
I can't stand them. Like they're constricting, and they're they're suffocating. That's a whole other episode probably.
Okay, Fred Flintstone, come on.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, so I was like, yeah, Barefoot Woodwrks. And my wife was like, I dig it. Uh, it was a cool mark. And then I had tools. I had plenty of power tools. But then I purchased a laser engraver, a huge one, which was an emotional event, getting ready to retire with no planning. And I'm going to drop a whole lot of money on an idea. So I invested in my future and had not quite. I bought a new house and I shouldn't have remorse, but it was a lot of buyer's remorse in the beginning, and I wasn't sure if it was ever going to pay itself off, and it absolutely has. So I don't know if that answered the question.
It
Sorry.
totally did.
Yeah.
And I remember you telling us when we came out to see, and we were seeing your shop and we were talking about stuff. And I remember you telling us that when you got that paid off and how cool that was. And that was well within that first year or that first 8 months. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty amazing. So
Oh, for
kudos to you
sure.
there.
Yeah, and so, you hit on a few things that I'd like to kind of pull the thread on a little bit, right? You talked about forming the LLC, you talked about kind of like, naming the business and stuff like that. Can you talk a little bit more about like other considerations that once you decided to actually go down the route of owning the business and, being the operator of it, what did you have to think about? What did you have to address? What did you actually have to take care of that you're like, my gosh, to do this right, I've got to do this, and then also, did you, from your, your veteran status and, kind of some of those benefits, did any of that play a role in some of the things that you had to do, like filing for, the business license or things of that nature?
Yes, the veteran status did help with it removed fees from filing. Some of the filings I didn't have to pay the fees. Probably the biggest thing I did was because I'm a LLC or a pass through entity. My income, what I make is just my income. But getting a finding somebody that knew math back to my cot math, ones and zeros. Well, you need those so you don't go to jail. Uh, so I got an accountant, a CPA, and was like, "What? Make sure like I don't want to go to prison." I've been to prison before. I don't. I mean, you're aware of that. I did some time, hard time, in the Arizona state prisons. Uh,
On the other side of the bars, on the good side.
Very acid crackers all three, and it's like that's not how this goes.
I'm like,
Let's be clear
we're
here.
going in a really different direction
Yeah.
today, Paul.
This is my third year, really. Into this, so I'm still not even there because it fluctuates so much in this type of business, where
Sure.
the woodwork. What I do, I would say, people don't need my services. People want, but they don't need them. When the economy's bad, no one's spending money on stuff because they're trying to feed their family. So my income fluctuates crazy with this business. But for me, was the veteran status did help with the filing. I did boots to business through the military. I didn't learn anything through that. I'm going to be honest. I didn't. The class I had it it didn't teach me anything. It was just pigeonholed on what a few people in that class were going to do. But it did at least give me an idea that I need my to form the LLC. Kind of a rough way to do it. To then somebody to make sure my finances are in order. And to me, that was my biggest thing, making sure I had somebody that when I submitted my income on this, I was being upfront and clear and honest on everything. And I wasn't missing something
Mhm.
because of my ignorance.
Sure.
Was.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you hit on a couple of things too, right? Where, having the appropriate steps and doing the things in accordance with the law, that's an important aspect of it. But on your boots to business experience, I would say there's actually value added in finding that, hey, that's not the path that you want to do because you rule out things that you don't want to do. Like me, I'm on my third job since I retired, and finding out what I didn't want to do took a couple of tries, and that's okay. So I think you ruling it out on the front end, actually a positive experience, quite frankly.
It, I would agree. And the boots to business, I'm not trying to speak ill at all. It was really focused on what a lot of military people do. Especially folks that get out. depending on what you're in or what you're doing or the pay grade you retire as, you're going into these positions and doing a lot of contractor work. So a
Mhm.
lot of that was focused on people being contractors.
Yep.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah,
And I'm like,
right.
I just want to drag my knuckles in sawdust.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they're doing contractor type, and so it was very helpful for that. And but it realized I don't want to do that. Just listen to people. I was like, oh, I don't. I want to work in my garage barefoot, which I do a lot, and I have been wearing shoes after an incident. I stepped on some nails, and I was
Why does that not surprise me?
and like the third. It was a row of nails. Bad idea. And I was like, oh, that's in. And as I'm pulling the nail out of my foot, I'm like, Barefoot Woodworks. I just pull it out, and there's blood all over. And then my wife I walk in, she doesn't even get upset anymore. She just shakes her head. She's like, how'd you do that? So I stepped on nails. She looked at me and she just walks off. Uh,
Then you gotta go find out when your last tetanus shot was,
yeah.
and that's just a lot of work. And I feel like there's a new logo that could be like little drips of blood.
Halloween edition,
I like that. Yeah. Dude, for the holidays. Uh,
There you go. You could fill in the little, like the two O's in wood, with
with
little red.
We're here to bring you new ideas.
We're brainstorming. Yeah, we're brainstorming. And I think I really when I knew I really wanted to do this, uh, for a living because I had so many ideas I just wanted to expand on. And there's times now where I don't even feel like I was ever in the military. It's really strange. I wake up and I'm like, I look at something I have on the wall and I'm like, did I really join the military? Did I really I can't it's
For 3 decades? Did I really do that for 3 decades of my life?
absolutely, it feels such a long time, but I really feel I've switched it so far because 'cause I'm very far removed, from all that. Although I still give back to the community, the military, I still give back to, Defend Your Nation, doing my awards and I still give back to that, so I still feel connected. I think because I didn't do the contractor route, it felt like I just got ripped out after working right up until my retirement, 2 days before retirement, and then the Band-Aid was ripped off and I almost felt a little thrown away too. Um,
Mm,
but I'm sure we've all heard that before. We felt a little bit like I'm a nobody all of a sudden.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
have to do
Thanks
this.
for your service. And then move
Yeah.
on to the next guy,
Yeah.
gal.
Yeah.
Thanks
Yeah.
for whatever your name was. Yeah, and then
Yeah.
and that number is not yours. It is some position, manpower billet that gets filled by the next person that comes in. It's not about the number; it's about the connections you and I have.
100%.
We make during that time, which then, transitions to what we're doing right now out of the military.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's go back to the business a little bit. What's sort of your biggest lessons, good and bad, that you've learned from getting your business going? And what advice would you give to somebody that was kind of doing the same thing, maybe in the space of turning a hobby or a passion into a career, not 1099 work for as a contractor, but really this space. What are some of those things that what are your bits of wisdom you can impart on
Well,
others?
when you take your passion or your hobby and you turn it into a job, it becomes a job. And are you ready for that? And I was like, I got it. And there was days where I don't want to get up and do this anymore. I don't want to build anything today. And I've never had that. That's never been a problem for me. But so I don't think I was ready. And the was like, make sure that you have another out because creating was always my break. In Minot, when I was an op soup, 450 people in my section, wanted some violence on occasion, so I'd go home and build, and it helped relieve my anger. And now that I'm building where's my release from this that has now become stress? I took my stress reliever and I said, I'll do it all the time.
Uh,
And then when stress comes, I don't know what to do with that stress. So I think you still diversify your life a little bit. Other outs. If you're going to take your passion and turn it into work, you're going to need to find another passion.
that's great advice.
No, that's really actually
Yeah.
Yeah,
huge
no one
insight.
told me because I'm over here like I need to do something else. And I still haven't found that other thing. So it's good advice. I just can't follow it yet.
Or at least be prepared for it,
Yeah,
right? Because right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
be prepared. And then, like anything, I think what makes us great in the military, or what we consider great, will transfer and make you great as a civilian. We're dealing with civilians. We're dealing with people that have never served a lot of the times when you take, especially when you're doing a passion and speaking civilian. Uh,
Hmm.
what was difficult for me at first when I'm talking to somebody who doesn't know what I do, and I think the rate of speech and how I communicate and the directness sometimes wasn't I this the civilian world wasn't ready. And in what I'm doing is it's customer service basis. And again, just everybody, like a lot of people do what I do. How can I win these people over? How can I get business that you could go on Etsy and find a million people doing it? To me, it was a customer service.
Mhm.
It was the working with you on your retirement table. Uh,
Oh,
yeah,
Yeah.
so amazing.
but working with what this object, how can it be more special than you're going to get somewhere else? So advice is lose your ego if you have one. Realize that you actually were serving people in the military. You were serving your nation, the people next to you. You may have been in charge, and we all know the people that were in charge and felt like they were in charge. It was the ones that were like you, would worried about the nuts and bolts of somebody's how they're working, how they're feeling, taking that same care and transitioning it into my civilian, my building, because I want that item that you have to be passed down forever. I want I want to make family heirloom items. Um,
Yeah.
and
You don't
and
want to throw keys on it and have it fall over?
well, that that was learning.
You got to start somewhere, right?
I was
That's
a
right. I
three.
mean,
Yeah.
I was a
y'all
three
should
level.
see this table
Yeah.
that he made for Ian. I mean, it's amazing. It's like it's such a statement piece in our home now.
It is.
And I love it.
Yeah.
It's
And
awesome.
for those of you that wonder, look, we're going to drop, all of Barefoot Woodworks contact information in there so you can get in touch with Paul directly. Um, but this is a very small token that he made directly for me, and it sits on our mantle every single day with the Barefoot, Woodworks logo in there and a personal message. So that's the unique thing about Paul is, while, you say that, you can go onto Etsy and you find a million other people that do this stuff. I would argue that, yeah, you can do that, but you're not going to have something that's personal. You're not going to have something that has that touch and that care, that connection that you want it to be an heirloom quality piece that you keep in your home, and it becomes a statement of, your life together and the bonds and the friendship. So, the last part that I think that I would, give input here is, you know, the thing that I knew that Paul's hobby would turn into, a profession post-military. I sat in his office more than I sat in mine at a little pub table that he built.
And over here,
And, yeah, right back over in his shop, and that pub table, we solved the world's problems every single day. We sat there and wondered whether or
It's a
not we'd
good
have
table.
have a job the next day based off of what was going on in the world. We'd sit there and we'd talk about, the future for the organization and, how we wanted to handle an issue, or just, share stories. And it's those kinds of things. It's these pieces of art that foster memories. And I think that that's the part about that hobby that you turned into a profession that speaks profoundly to so many others that you touch on the other side of that. So, Paul, thanks so much for what you continue to do on this, post-military life and your next tour.
well. Thank you very much. That means a lot. And yeah, there was a lot of time sitting there, and if what I could build brings people together, I love it. If it's just a quick story. When I made chief, I was in Minot, and this is relative to my building. I'm going to grab something. Uh, I didn't put that out. What are the odds? Um, I was in Minot, and I got asked to build a. I built a chief stripe out of wood for a friend of mine for something like this right here, hand cut, since drew on by hand out of old pallet wood. Um, and I built it for a friend, which was my chief at the time, Jamie Space, and then the Chiefs group asked me to build this for the selects. It's my and I didn't get promoted. I didn't know I got promoted, so I'm building these with the hey people, the Chiefs group want these items, but I didn't make chief. No one's told me yet. But I ended up making it and having my work presented to me and all the other new chiefs, which happened to have a previous chief master of the Air Force in that group with us that has one of these. I was like, man, maybe I could do this when I get out. That was probably my first idea that this might be a something I could transition kind of forward. But having items that will stay on your wall or be a centerpiece, or as I made a table for a 3-star, and his wife was behind me as I'm putting stuff together in the house. The general wasn't there, but the spouse was, and she's like giggling, and then and she's back and forth, and I'm like, "Is everything okay?" Like, I mean, I'm in their house, you know. It's a JBAB. It's like I'm like, "This is pretty cool," and she's like, "Yeah, I'm just texting my son and daughter, and they're arguing over who gets a table when he dies. Is he okay? Oh no, we're fine."
That's a good question.
Like first, I'm like, is he gonna die? I'm sorry. And she's like, "No, he's perfectly fine. Like we're just retiring." And she's like,
She's put dibs on it,
I
from
was
day one.
Just put a sticky note on it. This belongs to me.
that to me was like absolutely one of the best compliments I could get. That this is the kids are like, we want this when dad dies. Hopefully not soon, but when he does, it's mine. And to me, that was a weird, just a validation of sorts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Epic,
Yeah.
man.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, we're gonna move on here because God knows we could all talk forever about this and with you, Paul, which we of course enjoy doing. So let's turn. I'm gonna ask you one of our favorite questions to ask all of our guests, which is what's in your rucksack or what's not in your rucksack anymore. So
True.
so this is your metaphorical item. What would you bring in, or real item, whatever you want to do. What would you bring, or what did you bring from your military life into your civilian life? And then what did you chuck out, leave behind? So
That's a great question. What did I take out? Punctuality, believe it or not. Uh, for me, as we said, I work in the ish. Uh, but you're very punctual. You're always on time. What's that? If you're, if you're earlier on time, if you're on time, you're late. I brought out of the military with me. Because I'm again back to what I do is I take care of what people's wants, and I need to be punctual on that. I need to be on time. I need to be able to
Deadlines, yeah.
I need to be able to deliver their product because so many people in this space don't. Uh, so taking that punctuality with me. The one thing I would leave behind is punctuality.
brilliant.
It's a double-edged sword because when you're dealing with people, they're not always as punctual as you. Being able to, this is where I say I work in the ish, one ish, and having, my wife's from Republic of Panama, that helps the ish because she's ishy all the time. She was 15 minutes late to our wedding because she was shopping. Yeah. Yeah. Those are a red flag I didn't pick up on. But that was 30 years ago. So letting go of the time. I'm glad I brought the punctuality because it really pays off, but being able to step away from that punctuality, realize that I'm not dealing with everybody isn't along my mindset. And
Yeah.
a lot of people,
It doesn't rule you.
It doesn't. So it's I would, that's it. It's a
Love it. Love it.
No, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. Yeah. So, and for those, that aren't picking up on the, hey, I am punctual piece. As we started to log on, I was like, hey, I'm not sure if Paul's terribly known for his punctuality, and he was on. So that was a bad on me.
And to be fair, it was like 90 seconds late.
Yeah. So, but that's an
Ish.
accurate call. I'm on the ish.
Yeah.
I'll get there. Like it's just, why be early?
Yeah, it's perfect. It's perfect. Yeah, it's just wasted time then, right? Awesome. All right. Thanks for that, Paul. Those are great, wise words, punctuality, love it, hate it, live it, doesn't matter. Uh, now it's my turn. I'm going to ask you the two truths and a lie piece, but before we ask you what your pieces are, I'm going to read you what our previous guest had, and you get the opportunity to guess what his lie is. So our previous guest, Brigadier General retired Mike Mannion. So his are all themed. He said that he has hiked across 3 countries, coast to coast, border to border,
Or
kind of,
coast.
or border to coast, whatever that case may be, right? So the 3 countries that he says that he has hiked across are Spain, Italy, and England. Which one did he not hike
So
across?
Well, I believe he did Italy. That just makes sense. And then if he did Italy, he probably did Spain. So I don't think he did England.
we had it backwards.
He didn't do Italy, which is ironic because that's, of course, where he lives.
That's why I figured he did Italy.
Yeah, I know, right?
But
It's a
maybe
good
that's
guess.
where if you figured you would have hiked the country you're going to move to.
That's his plan too. So maybe he needed to live there to do it. I don't know.
Sure.
But yeah, absolutely. So that's our last one. All right, Paul. So what are your 2 truths and a lie? And we'll reveal this on the next episode. So over to you.
So my 2 truths and 1 lie won't be in order because if I say the 2 truths and a lie, it works. So they're going to be mixed up. Kind of like the general on his hiking. I'm a climber. Not you wouldn't know by my size, but I'm an avid climber. I have climbed Mount Suribachi in Iwo Jima. Man, memories of this one. I climbed Mount Everest in Kathmandu. And I don't like the cold. And I was able to climb Mount Fuji. So
Dang.
those are some pretty. I mean, I didn't get K2 in there, but it's still. I mean, Suribachi. Not very many people could hit that one.
Yeah, no kidding.
Those are my 3 truths, and there might be a lie in there. Who knows?
Epic. A little ish in there. You got to throw the ish in there,
I mean,
Paul.
yeah.
Awesome. Well, of course, we'll let our next guest determine which one is the ish in there. And again, Paul, thanks so much for joining us. This has been a real pleasure to learn a lot about how you have turned your hobby and your passion into a full-blown career with some really key insights in there. We'll make sure that we drop all the ways to connect with you and with Barefoot Woodwrks in our show notes. So check us out anywhere where you get your podcasts. Hit us up on YouTube and our website, of course, thenexttourpodcast.com. And you can see all the ways to connect with us and with Paul and all of our other guests. Paul, thanks so very much. It's a pleasure to have you. See you, everybody.
Thank you very much.
The views, opinions, and advice expressed by our guest on the next tour are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the podcast, Andia, or any affiliated organizations. While we strive to provide helpful and accurate information, this podcast is for informational purposes only. We encourage listeners to consult with professionals or conduct their own research before making any significant decisions related to military transition or post-service life. The content is intended as guidance and personal perspective, not as official advice.